same time, corporations,
Welcome.
they consider themselves to be natural persons.
Thoughts and prayers. Don't we all love thoughts and prayers? Thoughts, prayers, and actions. That's what we need, especially in this day, in this climate. We need thoughts, prayers, and actions. So thank you for being here to be a part of the change that we need to see in this world today. Thank you. My name is Flora Lucero. I'm the chair of the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County, and I was elected in April. Right after I was elected, my team and I got together and we decided that our purpose for our term is to cultivate connections among voters to realize and build our power. So thank you for being here, being a part of building our power to make a difference, to bring solar energy to New Mexico. Thank you. Let's see. Also wanted to say our restrooms are in the back here. Women's over here, men's over here in the back. And I want to recognize our electeds that are in the audience. We have Nancy Bierce, treasurer. Nancy, would you please stand? Cynthia Hall, PRC. And then, of course, we have Representative Caballero, Representative Akil, Liz Stefanix, thank you, Senator Bill Tallman, thank you. Public Education Commissioner Carlos Caballero. Thank you. All right. So this, about 2 months ago, Pia Gallegos came to me and said, I want to have a panel discussion on the environment. And she had a really grand vision, and it was beautiful, but it would have taken probably 2 weeks to get through it. So I asked her to focus it a little bit. And this is the result of all her effort. And she has led a team and kept us in line and done a beautiful job. So Pia, would you please stand so we can recognize you? She's a powerhouse. And we had a wonderful planning team. So if you were on the planning team, would you please stand so we can recognize you? All right, and I would like to also thank our sponsors. They're listed here on the back of your program. We have Adelante Progressive Caucus, Indivisible Nob Hill, Positive Energy Solar, and the Sierra Club Rio Grande chapter. So your program has some really good information, including the bios of our presenters and our wonderful moderator, and the Democratic Party of New Mexico platform value statement on the energy and environment. So please read that. Yeah, it was beautiful work done by Charlotte and her team. And we also have an action items page here. And so our goal is to help people become citizen lobbyists. So we encourage you to fill this out. When the program is over, we'll be collecting them. We're going to do a drawing for both people who attended and for the volunteer forms here. And it'll be the same thing, that wonderful solar light. So once again, thank you for being here. My wonderful moderator here is Sarah Mayani. And she is Oxford educated. She is a native of New Mexican, Santo Domingo. And we are very fortunate to have her moderating this discussion today. Please join me in welcoming Sarah Mayani.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Mayani Barudin. First of all, thank you all for coming today. So we have a great panel. We hope to make you all as excited about community solar as we are. Hope that we can all keep you engaged the whole time and that you'll go home ready to take action. So first, we have Representative Patricia Roybal Caballero speaking. Yeah. First elected in 2012, re-elected in 2014, 16, and most recently in 2018. She is the immediate past New Mexico House Democratic Caucus Chair and immediate past National Treasurer of the National League of United Latin American Citizens, which is the oldest Latino civil rights organization. Also a native New Mexican and tribal member of Piro Manso Tiwa tribe of Pueblo of San Juan de Guadalupe in Las Cruces. She's had an integral role in the sponsor of the 2019 Community Solar Bill, and she's happy to tell you more about it. So please, welcome Ms. Representative Caballero.
Thank you so much. As I look around the room, well, let me say buenas tardes first. Buenas tardes. How's everybody? Good. I'm very, very happy to see so many people here today. It is a strong indicator that we are addressing a topic of critical importance to our constituents. Thank you to the many organizers today. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge Flora Lucero as our county party chair, Pia Gallegos, Cheryl Harris, Charlotte Parsons, and all of the others on the team and the organizing committee that put this together. Thank you very much. About 5 years ago, I was approached by a community activist group in my district, 13, called Juntos, Clean Air, Clean Water. They articulated their concern around school bus diesel emissions harming our children, the threat of harmful water lurking in our neighborhoods, and they expressed interest in accessing renewable energy options, particularly the community solar for low-income renters. At the same time, I was approached by other environmental justice advocates and asked if I would sponsor the community solar bill. Of course, as you have heard me say before, my public service as a representative has been to act in the interests of my constituents. So I always encourage everyone to bring forth their priorities, and I will represent them. I do not ever like to assume that I know all the needs, nor am I beholden to any select group, and I do not legislate from the top down. Consequently, I introduced the community solar bill in the House in 2017, and it failed to pass by 4 votes. It was, however, a wonderful opportunity for me to hear all of the arguments pro and con. It gave us all the opportunity to build a stronger network of input and support so that I and our team could make improvements and be ready for our next filing. I give this brief overview to you to inform you as to the processes leading up to community solar the last few years. So you might be asking, why is community solar so important to me and others? Community solar gives everyone the opportunity to experience affordable energy, and most importantly, the experience and knowledge to contribute and participate in clean energy practices to protect the future for those yet to come. It gives low-income households, particularly renters, solar access. These are populations that have been traditionally left out of the state's clean energy economy. Community solar is currently in 19 other states and in the District of Columbia. Although community solar programs do exist voluntarily in most states, their focus is to make money for the utilities with little maximum benefits for those who wish to participate. Therefore, legislation is needed to ensure local benefits are maximized. It is also needed to allow households, Native American tribes and organizations, municipalities, counties, for-profit and nonprofit entities to share the benefits of a single community solar project. Whether it's installed on a roof or just around the corner, participating in a community solar project will allow customers to get credit on their electric utility bill for their portion of the power produced, just as they do now with rooftop solar. It is a simple tool that provides everyone the opportunity to choose local, reliable, and low-cost clean energy. It's about having the choice. So you ask, what benefits will the state and users experience in passing community solar? First and foremost for me, last year, HB 210, community solar legislation, would have required that 25% of the projects serve low-income subscribers. It would also have allowed Native American tribes and organizations, municipalities, counties, for-profit and nonprofit entities, including low-income service organizations, to construct, own, and operate community solar generation facilities, or contract with others to do so. According to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory and other reports, for example, a 375 megawatt of solar could serve approximately 21,900 customers. Plus, we could see a 33% increase in solar jobs, resulting in 822 sustained full-time jobs just during the construction of these facilities. And we could see a $30 million per year economic benefit each year during the 25-year minimum life of the solar projects. I'd like to dispel two notions. One, that community solar will cost New Mexicans more, and two, that utilities would be required to make substantial system upgrades. On the first, let me say, this program is designed to save people money and stimulate the local economy, beginning with individual subscribers that will save money on their electricity bills, to entities that want to own and operate these facilities, to local governments that will get revenue from property taxes, which is a win-win for all New Mexicans and local communities. On the second note, utilities across the state already transfer bill credits through the state's net metering program. They actually know how to keep track of accumulated credits of time and give homeowners and businesses and other entities the appropriate value for the renewable energy that they generate. Community solar requires the same type of accounting and is no different than what the utility does now for rooftop solar. There is no reason community solar, which actually drives equity in the state's clean energy economy and has targeting low-income provisions, should bear the cost burden of updating the utility's antiquated billing systems. Furthermore, it's up to the community solar system owner to provide the utility information about how much clean energy a single project generates in a given month, and who should get credit for the electricity generation on their utility bills. Finally, as a lifetime community organizer, I cannot leave you without suggesting what you, together with a statewide network of supporters, can do to help myself and the co-sponsors move community solar forward in 2020. First, please send strong messages to the governor's office to make sure community solar gets on the call for 2020 session, indicating community solar is indeed another renewable tool complementary to the ETA. Second, please work with your party cohorts around the state to replicate this event, or take actions of support such as resolutions, petitions, so we can build a statewide support, particularly in the smaller, more rural communities who stand much to gain with community solar. Finally, make plans to be in Santa Fe during the session. Your presence and testimony is a powerful way to demonstrate support. There is power in unity, and there is power in numbers. With this, I'll close for now. I fully look forward to the questions and answers, and I defer to my colleague. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative. We're honored not only to have you here today, but to have such a strong advocate for community solar. We've just learned a lot of the limitations of rooftop solar and what solar energy policy is like here in New Mexico today, but also of the many opportunities and potential that lies ahead. I'm sure many of you are also confused about the technical aspects and nuances behind community solar, the difference with rooftop solar. I can admit myself, I still get confused, and I have a master's of science in energy systems. So, there is a lot of technical aspects to know about this. Fortunately, we have Representative Abbas Akil with us today. He is trained and as an engineer and has experience in energy storage systems and renewable energy. Elected to serve in the New Mexico legislature in 2018. So he'll teach you many of the technical aspects behind community solar and rooftop solar. He's also had an integral role in the Affordable Solar Energy Act of 2019 and has worked on local choice energy campaigns. So please welcome Representative Akil to the platform today.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you so much for inviting me to address this. I really want to thank the organizers, and I also want to recognize Senator Liz Stefanik because she is a co-signer of this bill, along with, of course, Representative Caballero. So with that, I have a tough job of trying to explain community solar to you in less than 10 minutes. So in a nutshell, this gives you power. Puts the power back in your hands, and this is literally and technically speaking, because community solar is really meant to bring solar down to the level where everybody can afford it. For a long time, solar was regarded as something that you had to spend a lot of money to put on your rooftop. By passing this bill, what you can do is buy solar even if you don't have a rooftop. This is the essence of this bill, which is if you don't own the building, you live in an apartment, as Representative Caballero said, you cannot install rooftop solar. You can still, through the provisions of this bill, buy solar energy. That's really what it does. Right now, what happens typically is solar is available either through your rooftop system, or the other choice is PNM builds a large 25 megawatt or 50 megawatt facility, which they own, and then they sell the electricity to you. Of course, that applies to the renewable portfolio standard, so they are required to do it. This goes above and beyond that. So allowing community solar and passing this bill allows us to build even more solar than what PNM is required to do to meet their RPS requirements. That's an important consideration. Now, technically how this works is, to me, it appears like first there might be a person or a company which says, all right, we buy a piece of property. For 1 megawatt, which typically serves about 200 homes, you need about 5 acres. So you look for a property parcel of, if you're going to build 1 megawatt, you buy 5 acres of land, put a solar array on that, which is all the PV panels that you see. Then you have to connect that to a substation, which will be owned by PNM. They will then distribute to, just like they do right now. You really won't feel the difference. It's basically buying electricity. But you're displacing PNM's energy with what you're subscribing with the community solar plants. So that is what it will look like. Somebody goes out there, they look for subscribers, which will be you. You buy small chunks, and the bill actually limits how much you can buy. So when they build this facility, you buy small chunks of it, and then every month you get billed for it just like you would from PNM, but you're actually subscribing and paying for this solar plant that a developer has built under the Community Solar Act. That's how I visualize it working. And then, what is required of you? As the rep said, it failed by a very small margin. And it really makes a big difference, like this yellow paper tells you, calling the governor, keeping the messaging very tight. In fact, I think they're going to be releasing some messaging you can use in your communication, which would make it easier, but actually trying to force the governor or persuade the governor, I shouldn't say force, I'm a legislator now, so persuade the governor to put this on the 30-day session, because as most of you probably know, the 30-day session is driven by her agenda. So if she puts it on the 30-day session, then we have an opportunity to pass this bill very quickly instead of waiting for the next 60-day session in 2021. So your activism now will make sure that this bill passes sooner, and we can start making use of this opportunity. Coming to the legislative committee meetings, to me personally, that makes a huge difference. Whenever a bill is proposed, it goes to at least 2 committees in the legislature. It goes to 2 committees in the Senate. But what that does is it gives you the opportunity to come and speak directly to us. Unfortunately, you get only 3 minutes, but it makes a big difference. When I, as a legislator, sit on the committee chair and see 40 people getting up to speak for this, they have driven 200 miles, taken their time to come and speak, it makes a big impression. Whether I agree with your issue or not, but that remains with me, that my fellow citizens who are passionate about this issue, which I agree or do not agree with, have at least taken the time to be here to speak to this. That makes a big difference to me, and I'm sure it makes a big difference to my fellow legislators. So do that for sure. And then calling and writing to the senators, just like the governor, write to your senators as well. And don't forget the commissioners of the Public Regulatory Commission. Most of this will be also decided by them. How this bill is put into action is not just dictated by the legislature, but it is also dictated by the Public Regulatory Commission. So be aware of that. Don't omit to write to them as well. That makes a big difference for them as well. And don't write to me. I'm already a friend. So use your stamp for somebody else. But that kind of activism is what is needed for passage of this bill. I think we've pretty much covered what I would like to say. So I'll wait for your comments during the Q&A session and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Akil, not only for sharing us more about what community solar is, but also what we can do in our part in helping it along. So some of you may be wondering how I got involved in this, and I'll briefly explain in my introduction of our next guest. So I'm from Santo Domingo Pueblo, and I've always wanted solar in my tribe. And we see these massive casinos and golf courses across the reservation, and a lot of development that's really energy extractive and resource intense. And I always wanted solar. It just makes sense. As Pueblo people, everything revolves around the sun. So I always just came back to the idea of solar. And starting an undergrad and through my master's, so I was avidly Googling different solar projects across reservations. And one of the first ones that, one day I was actually in Oxford and I was looking it up, and Picary's came up, and they had completed a 1 megawatt solar array, which, Picary's is actually the smallest pueblo in New Mexico, and that is a huge deal because not only, did the smallest tribe do it, but they're the success story of all of New Mexico so far. So that began my relationship with Picary's and Jeff Atencio. He is the tribal administrator for Picary's Pueblo, and he's here to share more about his involvement with the project. He's been with the tribe for 17 years, originally from Okeowinge Pueblo, also served in the U.S. Navy, has experience in a lot of subject areas, which, I can't even list them all. He's a true Renaissance man. But yeah, first we'll watch a video and learn more about Picary's story, and maybe, hopefully, that will get you more excited about the many possibilities that New Mexicans can all take advantage of one day, and hopefully the rest of our tribal nations can too. A lot of New Mexico, whether tribal communities or rural communities, are disproportionately impacted by the health effects of coal and nuclear. And current law fails to recognize how bad this is for our communities and the many challenges that it causes us to face. At the same time, solar energy has the opposite effect. Rather than hurting our health and hurting the environment, it can actually enable our health, enable our environment, to combat climate change, to build that resilience against threats, and to thrive as communities.
It was so exciting to see the first hole being dug all the way up to flipping the switch and seeing the electricity flow into the main grid, bringing together not only the community of Picaris Pueblo, but the Penasco Valley also. Right now, Kit Carson is purchasing the power, and all of this financial resource that we're generating is then going to help through the programs and provide services at the Pueblo. So some of the funds is going to support the Boys and Girls Club. We just started building a new baseball field. We also are now embarking on a travel center. It's pretty well laid out. It's looking good.
So this is going to be the double doors will be opening right here.
Yeah, don't they open on the side?
It actually goes back to the people as a community, and it's something that they can be proud of. And I would encourage every Pueblo to take that stance and utilize renewable energy. It's something that we need to do. We have to do. It's something that will save Mother Earth at the end of the day, and better for our kids.
Solar panels.
Being from Santo Domingo Pueblo, I always wanted what Picaris has now, and I think a lot of our other Pueblo nations do too. What I learned in my research in Picaris is that they are the only ones who are able to do so right now.
For years, Kit Carson Cooperative tried to petition Tri-State to increase its cap on renewables from 5%. But after being unsuccessful in their petition, in 2014, they bought their way out of a 40-year contract with Tri-State.
Yeah, the Tesla, I like that too. When people ask, where's the co-op? On Cruz Alto by the solar array. And no one ever misses our building.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
So Kit Carson is creating a new utility model that really enables the members who we work for to get the type of energy that they want. So it really has brought the community together in our goal to really become as independent from fossil fuels as we possibly can. After we pay our exit, we'll be the most competitive and low-cost cooperative in the state of New Mexico.
These low prices are possible because Kit Carson isn't locked into buying energy from any one energy supplier. They can meet their customers' demands for 100% renewable energy from solar projects like Picaris Pueblo and other competitive renewable energy suppliers. Communities across the country are already seeing the benefits of local choice energy. Communities are able to pursue 100% renewable energy goals, experience lower electricity costs, and they're able to take the money spent on electricity and invest it back into their communities instead of exporting it to out-of-state shareholders. Even though New Mexico is second in the country for solar potential and 7th in the country for wind potential, we still get 90% of our electricity from conventional energy sources. That means we're using coal and nuclear and natural gas. This is extremely dangerous, not only for our environment and climate, but for our health and our economy.
Right now, we're all forced into one energy provider for all of us that have near monopoly power. And that simply works against everything that can serve our community well, whether it's using competition to get better prices, or us as consumers in our communities, our elected officials locally saying, we want to purchase 100% renewable power with New Mexico companies. We deserve that choice, just like any other product we buy. It's time for energy freedom for New Mexicans, and that's why I'm going to be introducing this legislation.
Community solar and local choice energy legislation will allow us to drive New Mexico's energy transition from the ground up. Local communities will be able to invest in renewables, not only as consumers, but as producers. Together, we can do this. Let's actualize our potential to reach 100% renewables and make a just transition to a high employment, high innovation, clean energy economy.
Please welcome Jeff Atencio.
Well, good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the organizing, and all of this is wonderful. It's very nice. It's a nice drive up from northern New Mexico up here, so it was nice today. Seeing that video again, it just reminded me a lot about what we had to do to get to where we're at today. Some of the previous projects we had that got us here was a net zero fire station that we got funding for through USDA, and it's in operation. It's a really nice facility. Then we did another smaller home with panels on the roof, which got us to another level. And then we came about this current project, where it was originally, it was a 10-acre project to do economic development, to do a travel center, laundromat, and some other businesses on there. We got to talking with the housing authority for the Pueblo, and somehow somebody in that organization said, well, why not solar? We looked into it, a great location. It was already clear to do all kind of construction. The power line was right there. Talked to Kit Carson. They said, hey, it's in line with what we want to do. Let's all go for it. So we got funding together through the Department of Energy, and they gave us a $1 million grant, which we used, along with private funding on it, and got to work, and we put together a project. Took us almost a year to put it together, which was really nice. A little over 3,800 panels on there, and to date, it's still running. The only problems we have once in a while, the fuses are going out because of electrical strikes up there from the lightning. So it causes it to pop, and we have to go back in and change it out. Now we're getting training on how to do that from GE. So they're coming out, they're going to show us how to do all of that. Maintenance on it has been very minimal. We haven't had to do too much during the winter. If it doesn't melt off, we have to go out and take the snow off of it. Recently we said, oh, we forgot about the weeds because they were getting too high. So we have to go down and cut those. Other than that, it's very minimal maintenance. We have our tribal council, who's our workforce, and they go out and take care of that whole thing. So maybe a part-time person could do that whole megawatt solar array, but with some assistance. But that's about it. So it's very minimal, very cost-effective. Revenues from the sale to Kit Carson has really helped the whole community. Some of it has gone, like I said, to the Boys and Girls Club. Others have gone into the youth itself. Some have gone into the senior center. Just little projects that we had to do around the Pueblo are a lot easier to come about now because we can use those funds as matching. The biggest thing that we've found for the community as a whole is that we're subsidizing their electrical bill through Kit Carson. So some of it is going back to the community members, to their bills. So they're seeing credits on their bills. During the winter, they're getting $75 on their bill, and then during the summer, it's $50 on their bill. So each community member is seeing a return from the project. Right now, since we have feeling very comfortable and excited about this project, we're going to do a second one, another megawatt. So we already have that spot. Thank you. We already have that spot selected. We've already been awarded another $1 million grant from the DOE. We already have the funding, the matching funds for that project also. Where we're kind of hung up now is, what do we want to really do with this project now? Do we want it to go directly to the homes and power everybody 100%? Or do we sell some back to Kit Carson? Do we do some new ideas such as data warehousing? It eats up a lot of electricity. You have a solar panel, it can go right in there. So there are all these different kinds of different scenarios that we're trying to work through and see what's going to be best for the Pueblo, and then also including the Peñasco area, because they are our neighbors. There isn't really any local government there other than Taos County, but they're so removed and there's nothing local that Picaris has stepped up and said, okay, we're going to take the lead for this area. We're going to do what we need to do for the community as a whole. So there was one other one. On the new technology for this new one, we came across this company that has a system to store the energy that does not include batteries. It will store it for 6 months with a 12% degradation in the power. It'll also clean water. So what we're going to do is take the water from our sewage lagoon, pump it through it, clean it up, and then send it back out. We're going to hook it up to our new travel center. Since we're very good about doing economic development, we thought, well, let's do a travel center. So we're going to connect this particular unit to the travel center, and it's going to power it 100%, so that we won't have to rely on the grid. That system is going to cost, I think it was like $650,000. So after that, after it gets paid off, all of that is free energy for it. The travel center is also going to have charging stations for electric cars. So we'll have that one there too. So we're really thinking long-term what we can do. One point that in this whole thing is that Picaris is very unique in the way that they do business internally. I kind of liken them coming from the Navy. Some pueblos are like carriers. We're like a small frigate. We can turn really quick and make things happen. In that respect, some pueblos take months for a resolution to get signed and processed. Picaris, we can do it within half a day or a day. So, and the reason for that is because tribal leadership is there every day communicating, talking, planning, looking at stuff. So when projects and opportunities happen, we can make it go at a moment's notice. So that's one of the things that is unique up there. I think that is it, and I'll wait for questions at the end. Thank you.
I just want to make a quick announcement. Senator Bill Tallman, who's sitting at the back, indicated that he will be a co-sponsor in the Senate for the bill. So please give him a hand. The more sponsors you pick up, the stronger the bill becomes. Thank you. Oh, and I wish we have the same agility as Picaris in the legislature.
And on the note about the sponsors, something that we've been trying, there's a handful of us that have been trying to do in each of our caucuses is to have the entire caucus co-sponsor. That's even a bigger deal if we can get, so that's the movement right now, and I hope that this will generate that. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
And thank you so much, Mr. Atencio. Like I said, Picaris, I really can't emphasize enough how much they have done, and now you learn more. I think there's even, once you go up there and if you actually see the solar array, it's magnificent. And I think if anything, he's actually undermined how much the governance has done. It's truly a model of success. I can attest to the resolution bit. They actually also signed a resolution in support of the Paris Agreement, which is amazing. So big applause for that too. So yeah, we've learned a lot about the idealized and realized potential of community solar. I just wanted to share some statistics I looked up last night. That way we know where we are right now and where we can be one day. So as of the first quarter of 2019, we have 800 megawatts of solar installed. That's enough to power 205,267 homes. Solar jobs are 2,168. Right now, our state's electricity is only 4.72% solar. But at the same time, prices for solar have fallen significantly over the last 5 years. In New Mexico itself, 34%. So, there is a lot more room for growth. We can, we're only 4%, roughly, almost 5. We should make that 100, hopefully one day. So our next guest, Mariel Nancy, she's here to really get you excited, and I know she will. She has really committed to clean energy transition here in New Mexico, the Executive Director of New Energy Economy. And she's here to distinguish more about community solar legislation and other exciting legislative possibilities, so please welcome her.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Representative Caballero and Senator Stefanik. Really, they have championed this for years. So we need to give them not only our congratulations, but we also really need to give them our support. They are calling out for us to back them up, and that's what we need to do. And one of those things, before I go into it, is we need to talk to everybody in here has to commit to talk to Senator Worth and Representative Egoff, because 30 days is a very short session, and we need for them to all hear from you that this is what we want to be moved quickly in this session, so it will pass. So I urge you to do that. So let me just give you a little context. For the last 50, 100 years, we have depended on coal plants and gas plants and nuclear plants. And they have mostly been sited in places where poor people live, people without a voice. Navajo Nation has been called, in 1960, Navajo Nation was called an energy sacrifice zone. And then we've been pumping out fracking and coal and nuclear from that area for the last 50 years, and people are suffering, and you know what the results are, right? Cancers that are found there that are not found anywhere else in the world. Not only that, but we see the largest methane cloud, which is the size of Delaware, and the second largest methane emissions comes from the San Juan generating plant. So now finally, which is a huge victory for the people, the San Juan generating station will be closed. But what should replace that power? And our call is 100% renewable energy, which can be done. And so what the old model was these enormous plants, transmission lines that go for hundreds of miles, and guess what? Our electricity rates are the highest in the region. Just to give you an idea, PNM in the last 10 years has made 654% profits. And all of that, it's not just that they're extracting the coal and uranium and the gas from the ground, they are literally extracting the wealth from our communities. And where are they sending it? It's sent directly to Wall Street shareholders. So community solar and something called local choice energy that you heard Senator Steinborn introduce last year is a totally different model. It's about us producing electricity in a new way. It's called decentralized energy, right? You could put it on your rooftop, and hopefully next year with community solar, you can get that credit for it being produced somewhere else, not on your rooftop, but on your bill, right? So this would be us owning it. It's about the democratization of energy. And just so you know, I have said that the energy that is produced in the United States, right, there has been an undermining of our democracy because energy companies make the most money of any companies on the planet. And what have they done in the in the national sphere, I think, I'm not sure what the latest statistic is, but I think it was like 7 lobbyists per legislator, right, from the energy companies. And that's true here as well. So what if we, not only in community solar, but I'm hoping local choice energy, which has been adopted in 8 states, by the way, what if we were creating that? And you heard from Picaris is like, it's a beautiful model. What are they doing? What are they doing with the excess energy? It's not being exported to Wall Street. No, they're investing back in their people. They are lowering, can you imagine that? They're lowering their electricity rates. That's number one, right? And then they're reinvesting in their people into the language classes, into hiking trails, into the travel center. How? It's not only about repurposing the money that was spent on this clean energy that's right there, that's local, that you could see. And you should also all go up and see it, because it is like beautiful to see. And when you go up there, and you see that they're not only producing clean energy for their people, lowering their electricity rates, and becoming self-sufficient. We could do that too. Imagine if it was happening in Albuquerque. Albuquerque uses a lot of electricity. Instead of buying from P&M, what if it was supporting all the other needs that we need in Albuquerque, like housing, homelessness, addressing education, all the things that we need, healthcare. So this is about energy democracy, and it's about economic sufficiency, and it's about clean energy. So it's a total paradigm shift. So I just want to tell you that that's like a possibility, and I'm excited for you to join this. I want you to know that we have to build a movement to support community solar and local choice energy. And so one of the things is that we have these postcards, some of you signed them already, to the governor. So there has to be, yes, as Representative Akil said, pressure on the governor to bring this on her call, right? So that's one thing. Then contacting Senator Worth and Representative Egoff. I just want you to know that last year, the All Pueblo Council of Governors, so all of them unanimously supported community solar and local choice energy because they want the opportunity that Picaris has done as well. So I will stop there, and I want to just, you can read online, if you go to the legislative site, the fantastic, I think, legislation that was brought by Representative Akil and, Caballero, and Akil signed on as well, and Senator Stefanik. So you can read that legislation. The other thing is to push back with P&M. So they are the barrier to this passing. I'll just tell you that. And so they need to hear from you as well. And so they have this like talk to us little button or something like that. I've never done it. But if you want to, they need to hear from you that you think that this is a really important thing, that you want to create more solar in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And what's so interesting, I just want to tell you one other thing is, you heard Sarah say that right now we have 4% solar in P&M only has 3% solar on its entire system, which I kind of think is criminal. So community solar is a way to accelerate that. Picaris is 100% solar. Kit Carson is expected to be 100% solar. Kit Carson, that whole electric co-op, by 2022. Meanwhile, P&M is not planning on that till 2040 or 2045. So we can make that difference with community solar and hopefully, ultimately, local choice energy. Thank you. So here are these. Oh, I just want to say one last thing. One last thing is not only for you to sign one of these so that we can mail them in, and we mail in a couple a day, every day. But it would be great if you took them. And so take a couple and get 10 people to sign it. And then you put on your stamp and send it in whenever you do it. So that would really be helpful too. And I think, I just want to say one other thing that we're going to be doing is getting billboards along either I-25 or, I haven't figured out, we haven't done that research yet, but in the next month, we're going to have a community solar billboards up. So that is also to show, hey, the people want this. So thank you.
Thank you, Marielle. One thing that I've noticed just throughout this is we've talked about, an economic and energy shift in community solar. And, I always think about it as more than that. I think it's also coming together as a community for community solar, whether that's as a tribe, as a neighborhood, as a social group. And I think there is, finding the compassion in energy production and generation and use again. For our loved ones, for our future generations, for our climate. And I think, a lot of that is integral in all of this conversation. So thank you for mentioning that as well. I'm sure a lot of you have burning questions, hopefully. So how we'll do this is if you have a question, please come up here. We're going to limit our question time to 1 minute and answers to 2 minutes. So hopefully we can fit in as many as possible. So please, welcome yourselves up here.
Hi, are we ready?
And sorry, I'll direct questions at certain panelists, that way we can speed along the process.
I don't think this is live.
Let me take this one off. Yeah, just come up here.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much for participating in this panel. It's been so informative and it's so important. My name is Betsy Swan. I'm chair of Ward 17A of the Democratic Party, and I have a couple of very technical, nerdy questions about the bill. First of all, does it allow groups to lease land on which to construct solar arrays? Thank you. And the other question I had was, I assume it does provide for direct tie-in if a group is so inclined to do so. Thank you very much.
Those were very quick answers, so.
Yeah, as far as I know, the bill even allows the developer to sell the community solar project to somebody else eventually. So they don't have to own it for the entire operational life.
And it is grid tied.
It is grid tied, yes. Oh, well, hold on a minute. But if they have subscribers close to them, they don't have to be grid tied. Okay.
The bill says that P&M will buy all the energy, and yeah.
Hi, thank you all. My name is Jeremy Sment. I work as an activist in the Democratic Party. I'm also an engineer, and I work in thermal storage of solar energy. So one of the things I'm concerned about is how this bill addresses an aspect of solar energy that I've never been able to afford, and that is storage. I know that I make panels, but yet I still have to keep that portion of the bill coming from P&M. I'm forced to be grid tied to P&M. And one thing I'm aware of is that the gas and coal turbines are still going in spite of my solar panels because they know that on a cloudy day they have to be 100% reliable. How would the legislation as written or as potentially future versions of it allow community storage to be a part of this?
I think we need to address it from a general standpoint, because I'm not quite sure.
So there's specific 2 references in the bill itself that allow community solar and storage. So really that will be more or less a business decision by the developer, because if they put too much storage, it might become uneconomic. I think what they will do is there are 2 approaches they can take. They can either smooth out the instantaneous variability of solar by using a minimum amount of storage, which is probably the most cost effective, because then it guarantees that they are delivering, let's say they build 2 megawatts, then they are always delivering 2 megawatts, there's no fluctuations when the sun is shining. The other thing they can do with storage is they can time shift. So after the sun is set, they can add more storage, which is beyond what they need for the smoothing function, is to sell more community solar electrons to you as a subscriber for, say, 3 hours after the solar output has died out. So there are 2 options for storage. And again, depending on how the cost of storage comes down, community solar can always look at more and more storage to displace PNM's energy even for several hours after the sun is set. But today, I think it's more realistic to expect that they can probably time shift for 2 to 4 hours cost effectively.
It just, the bill allows for battery storage, or any storage system, so.
Thank you. And just to interject, if you're unable to come up to the microphone to ask a question, or if you need other means to ask a question, please just raise your hand and let us know so that we can get to you as well.
Is this one working now? Yes.
Yes.
My name's Ted Cloak. I'm from Albuquerque. I'm identifying myself here as a user. I have 6 kilowatts on my garage roof. I power my entire house, plus it's a duplex, so I have a rental, and I run my car. My car is all electric. But suppose I didn't own the place. Suppose I was a tenant in one of these large 200 apartment buildings owned by a landlord. And I said, oh, I love this idea. I want to get involved in this. What could I do to become involved in community solar in that situation?
Basically, if you bought 1 or 2 or 5 panels in a community solar garden, we'll call it, then all the energy production that is produced from the however many panels you have purchased would be credited to your bill if you're a renter. So it's done, quote, virtually via a billing system.
And I may add, think of it as a subscription similar to your phone subscription or your Xfinity, or you're subscribing to any of those entities. It would be the same. And the beauty is that it can move with you. As long as you're moving from one community solar facility area to another, it can move with you, and that's the beauty. So that the whole intent and purposes of community solar was to make it open up access and give renters that opportunity, and also to begin experiencing.
I see. Well, I somehow thought that the word community meant that a community would get together and do this, but it actually, if somebody has started this, anybody else could join the community just by buying into it.
It's meant to be, yes, it's a development project, and it can be developed by a local organization, profit, nonprofit, any entity. It can be developed that way, and you can subscribe to it.
Thank you.
My name is Tim Curtin. I am the Secretary of the Green Party of New Mexico, and I would like to thank this panel for doing an incredible amount of work on behalf of the people. When you sit, though, and you listen to the profits, what, 654% for PNM? By what right do they have, except that they own the utilities? It seems to me, rather than taking a bill and piecemealing it, why don't we have public ownership of the energy? It seems actually, we might get a little democracy. Democracy does, the Supreme Court had it wrong. Corporations are not people. People are people. And as people, why don't we have a right to decide what we want to do. It seems to me clean energy ought to be a basic right. It really ought to. And I applaud what the people are doing. The other problem that we have is that we have a governor that's pro-fracking. There has to be an immediate stop on fracking. It's not enough to go ahead and ask. We need to demand an end to fracking. Now, there was an excellent bill last year. It got nowhere. It got nowhere because lobbyists have more rights than the people of New Mexico, which is obscene. It goes against our democracy. So I think it's, I applaud the work that you are doing. It's yeoman's work. It's like, who was it? Icarus? We need to do more. So thank you.
May I just say, community solar is your community solar bill. So take ownership. This is all about you taking ownership and ensuring that this bill represents you in the best interest and that we move forward. And I think that's ultimately the message here. Thank you.
Just to kind of paraphrase that question in the best terms possible, how do we approach community solar with so many competing interests in our government and in our legislation? It seems, as the audience interjected, there's a lot of worry about fracking and other extractive activities. So how do we use, how do we support community solar with that in mind and, keeping in mind the economics and jobs and all of that? So please share.
I wanted to I would like to share one thing. So there's local, they call it community choice aggregation in California. They say by 2020, we called it local choice energy because we like the name better, but it's the same exact concept. By 2020, they're talking about in California that 20 million people will be served by local choice energy. Why? Because of what you just said, Sarah, which is that there has been a groundswell of a demand. And the last person who spoke, who said, we want clean energy at low cost, and we don't want to continue to have all the money exported to really, there are 3 monopoly utilities in the state, but PNM is the largest. And so, and I just want to tell you a really quick story. It started with Marin Clean Energy in California. Marin Clean Energy is a white, very wealthy, progressive area. 12 contiguous cities and towns said, we want to join clean energy. Marin Clean Energy, it was called. And you had 2 choices. One was 50 cents cheaper a month than at the time PG&E, that's right, for 50% clean energy. And the other one was, the other choice was $5 more a month for 100% clean energy. They got a huge amounts of people. They say that people, even poor people, would agree to spend up to $10 a month more a year to have clean energy and know that their brothers and sisters weren't getting cancer as a result. Okay, so that's number one. And that's like polling that's been done. But then Richmond. Richmond is a largely African American community. And Richmond goes up to Marin Clean Energy and said, we want to join. We want to be your 13th community that has it, but we only want to do it based on one thing. And they said, oh, well, what's that? And they said, we want locally produced solar energy, right? And we will charge $20 more a month, but there will be no electric increases for 20 years. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll take that third option. Richmond now has 1,200 people who are in the solar industry, working in the solar industry from Richmond. So here are these African Americans who didn't have jobs before and now are producing 100% clean energy for people in And there's been a huge uptake in wanting to purchase because they know their neighbors are buying, are producing that energy. And it's just a beautiful story. And like, that's what we could have here. And they were the closest because I don't know if you know about Richmond, there's like a gas, a big, huge gas terminal there. And there was a huge explosion there where people died. And yeah, and so I'm just telling you that, like, Picaris is the model. It can happen. So it's no longer, is it like a pipe dream? It's like, it's about political will. That's what we're discussing here. That's what we're really talking about. And so that's what we have to, that's what our responsibility is, to create the political will, because the actual technology is possible.
Representative Caballero, can you add on to that?
Yes, I just want to add real quickly that it actually, you know, I'm known around the House as the hold the line representative, because I don't compromise away the basic tenets of what it is that we're proposing to do. And the basic tenets in this bill are opening up access opportunity whereby that has not happened, and placing it in the hands of those that the mass majority of our population, to give them the opportunity to experience what it means when we talk about the democratization of energy. And it also means that we're empowering those individuals and supporting their quest for self-determination and self-sufficiency and self-reliance. And that ultimately is what it means. And so you will hear criticism of the fact that, you know, Roybal Caballero is not going to give up this, and Roybal Caballero is not going to give up this, and I won't. I'm not about compromising. If you want to sit at the table and negotiate from principles of unity and where we can start in agreeing to the basic tenets of the bill, then we'll negotiate. But I'm not going to give up the importance of the meat and substance of the bill to begin with. And I think that's where we need that support. So that's what we're calling on everyone to support, because this is breaking into a realm that has long been controlled by profit and power. Thank you.
Let's move on to the next question.
Hi, I forgot my question. No. My name is Ralph Rons, and like some other people said, you know, I'm a precinct chairperson. I'm also a relatively early adopter of solar. I have rooftop solar at my house for the last 10 years. I'm a big-time advocate. Thank you very much for introducing the legislation, the last two sessions, Representative Caballero. We talked briefly, so I know that, and I remember it passed the House and it moved through the House very quickly, but then it stalled in the Senate. So my question has to do, since we're in a 30-day session, it was already alluded to, it's going to have to, you know, Marielle said this, it's going to have to move very quickly. Are there provisions that it can be brought up immediately, if it makes the governor's call, that it could pass right away, you know, be brought up for a vote, or does it have to still go through the machinations of, you know, committee assignments? And then, of course, the attention has to be made in the Senate. And I know that, you know, the Senate is known where bills and dreams go to die. That's my three-part question, and I know I'm also very glad that you have the postcards going out, and I think New Energy Economy also had us sign letters at the beginning of the session that we would hand carry to each of our representatives and senators, and maybe we'll do that again. But the big question, I guess, is how to get it through in a 30-day session and trying to get this at the attention of each of the Senate committees. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give it a shot, and then Representative Akil can chime in if he'd like. So in a 30-day session, excuse me, when it's put for a call, then priority, obviously it's on the agenda, and the governor is stating that that is what she wants to see on the agenda. So it's up to the leadership, and someone earlier mentioned reaching out to Senator Peter Wirth and Representative Brian Egoff as the Speaker of the House. They determine, once it's been approved, the Rules Committee will meet and will agree to whatever it is that the governor has placed on her call, and then the Rules Committee, of which I sit on, will determine that it's germane, and we'll follow that process. And then the message to both Speaker Egoff and Senator Worth is that it has top priority. It does have to go through at least one committee. That's part of the rules of the process. When you see it being assigned to one committee in one house and then the other, then that sets the flag, the signal that everything is to move quickly through the process according to that's the message to the chairs. That's through that regular 30-day process. There is also an option that the governor can place it as an executive order. The governor will always have that option to place it as an executive order. As we've been seeing play out on the national scene, executive orders are as good as the administration in office. We, as legislators, would much rather see it go through and be legislated so that it becomes firm within the statutes and it becomes something that's sustainable and something that everybody has to abide to, period. So that would be the ultimate, and that is the goal. That's our goal, is to place it and make it a state law.
No, I think that's really important, because if it goes on the 30-day call, that's our best chance to get it through. And that will take an extreme amount of activism with the governor to say this is important for us. And really tied to the Energy Transition Act. This should support the Energy Transition Act.
It complements it.
And that was that, I think someone of you said that this goes beyond what the requirements are for utilities on their renewable portfolio. But if PNM was required to buy this electricity back, wouldn't it be an incentive to them to support this? Because I also heard that they oppose this if it could count towards their renewable portfolio standard requirements. Because I think it's what, at 40% by 2045?
And then 80.
And it will certainly be, it is, that's why it's astounding to us still to realize that PNM's opposing, because it's, as I said, it's a win-win for everybody. Yes, it would count. Yes. Yes, the answer
They
is
could
yes.
buy the RECs, the renewable energy credits, that from the community solar, and I just talked to them last week, and they said that they're interested in buying those RECs, and that is in the bill. So they could do that in order to meet their minimum requirements.
And then as the value of the RECs goes up, it actually creates more profit for the entity who's investing in community solar. So there's a double-edged sword here.
Hello, I'm Don. Just two questions. I wanted to know how the Energy Transition Act would affect, whether that would change the PRC regulation of the community solar. And the other thing is, which I'll probably forget, I read in the bill about something about a certificate. What is a certificate? The solar certificate.
In answer to your first question, there's not, they're separate. There's not any correlation between the two. And in the community solar bill as it stands now, the Public Regulatory Commission has rulemaking responsibilities and authority, and that's it. So, they're meant to actually complement, this community solar will in fact complement the ETA. That was an answer, and I forgot the second question.
Oh, about what is a certificate?
So in order for what PNM has done, you know that they only have 3% solar, right? And what they do often is buy renewable energy certificates. So there is some real renewable energy somewhere that is tied to the certificates, but they haven't put it on their system. And that's one of the reasons why they're only at 4% when they're supposed to be close to 20% by 2020. But we're not there yet. But they could buy, this, Representative Caballero is absolutely 100% correct. This could accelerate their ability to meet the renewable portfolio standard that is included in the Energy Transition Act, and would actually help them because they're not paying for the community solar. They're just buying the RECs. That's all they're buying. So this would actually help them meet those goals.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Troy McGee. I work for NM Solar Group. We're a residential installer here in New Mexico. My question is about helping these developer jobs be done by New Mexican companies. We look at the wind industry in New Mexico, and from what I see, these are all out-of-state developers that do bring in their own specialized teams. And so while it's our wind, our resource, these are being developed by out-of-state companies. With solar, we see majority of the solar projects are done by out-of-state companies. And myself for my company, and myself as a New Mexican, would like to see more of these jobs be done by New Mexicans. I do believe it still needs to be competitive, and this is not a government contract, so it can't be weighted towards local preference. What are the ideas that we have to make sure these are done by New Mexican installers, New Mexican designers, and if possible, financed by New Mexicans? Otherwise, I see this as very possible of switching out an investor-owned utility to an investor-owned independent power producers that are developed, skill sets are grown, not with New Mexicans. Thank you.
Jeff, can you speak a little bit about Pickeries and job growth, and then we'll lead to the legislation? Sorry to put you on the spot.
I was taking a nice nap there. The job creation there on the Pueblo concerning solar, as I mentioned earlier, is minimal, but the anticipation of the travel center bringing in additional employment there, and then also we recently just opened up a Class 2 gaming facility there, which has increased our employment there and some revenue on that aspect. Boys and Girls Club, there's more employment there. Increasing our Tiwa language program, there's some more that we've employed there. So overall, we've increased our employment probably by about 10%. So just having a solar project on the reservation has really done wonders. I was talking with a friend of mine that I may be doing business with. We were looking at some of the casinos. One casino was doing a little over $1 million just on electricity. And we thought, what if they put in a solar farm? I mean, that $1 million could go back to the community and really help out Native community in that way.
I'll just add another aspect to this. You know, all the wind turbines that are installed in our state get their components from out of state. And this is one thing that we don't negotiate in the state is if there is a large developer who's going to put in a wind farm here, why don't we make it contingent that they produce at least some of the components for those turbines right here in New Mexico? That is not done at all. This is something I'm really passionate about because if you look at the turbine itself, there are at least two components that are fairly low tech. The tower itself, which is a steel tube, and I'm not convinced that there's not a single supplier in New Mexico that cannot make a steel tube. Why do we have to import this from Texas or Mexico? So when we, being the state land office, negotiates a wind farm, or RETA negotiates a wind farm, there's no reason why they cannot say that some component should be made here. The other thing that I'd really like to see is, you've seen these long turbine blades going down the freeway. They all come from either Mexico, Colorado, or Texas. The technology, the science to do this was developed right here at Sandia National Labs. So here we are with the labs which developed the structural components or the structural science behind the blades, and yet the blades are coming from out of state. So why is it that we cannot create an industry in New Mexico? Because once this turbine is installed, the blades have a finite life. They need to be replaced once every few years. And all those blades are coming from out of state. So when we look at a future and we are saying we are going to produce 7,000 megawatts of electricity using wind turbines, let's make sure that at least some of those wind turbine components are made right here in New Mexico.
And just to add, there's absolutely no reason why we cannot envision and work in partnership, in terms of investment partnerships. There is capital in the state of New Mexico. Jeff just mentioned, there's capital. There's a desire. The tribes around the state desire to own their own, to be self-determined, to be self-sufficient. And they have been, in the last, I think, 30 years now, 1/3 of the general fund is supplemented by gaming. And if we were to just look at how we could restructure those gaming compacts to give them more money and less to the state, because we don't need that in the state anymore, and it's outrageous that we have a corporate income tax at 4.8%, and yet we're taxing some tribes up to 15% for that compact money. Wouldn't you be able to see a difference in if they were to pay their fair share of, according to the corporate tax? Then that money could be part of an investment pool that then can partner with developers, those that are already in business. There's no reason why they are to be excluded, and be able to open up the community solar facilities around the state, and our state be fully 100% community solar. That's the type of vision that this particular bill and we joined, because there is that capacity, and you're correct, there's no reason not to elevate our state to the level that it should be. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Solomon. I'm with 350 New Mexico and past vice chair of the Democratic Party, Bernalillo County. My question has to do with some financials, and it would be very powerful for us to have maybe some kind of a third-party study that said, with community solar in the state of New Mexico, with the kind of solar energy that we have here, this is the amount of money that a typical homeowner could save on their bill. And I've kind of been looking through the materials and some of the other things here. I haven't seen that. There's a whole range of estimates. Of course, PQRIS made some substantial savings on an array that they own themselves in that community. But I think the community solar model is probably having a third-party developer put their money up front, and then they're going to have to install it, sell to subscribers. They will have to make return and pay back their initial investment. So I guess I'm looking for some examples, some study, some hard numbers that we could quote as we go advocate for this bill that said this is how much a homeowner could save, or a renter could save on their electric bill of whatever size. And do you have any examples of that? Can you quote some figures?
I think that Art, who's here, is probably the best person to answer that. I think that what we could do is look at what has been done elsewhere, but we can't project what a specific developer is. That's sort of what they're going to have to, that's what they're going to have to sell, right? Is, hey, I can beat P&M's current per kilowatt hour price, and then you can own it and maybe pay, just like when you have it on your house, like we do, is once you pay, after 7 years, it's basically free, you know? So I'm not sure if those exist. Maybe Art could tell us.
Let me introduce Art real quickly. Art Terrazas is with Vote Solar, and Vote Solar has been the national advocacy group that has been driving community solar in 19 other states. So, Art.
It really depends, but it really is based on a model of making sure that the developer has to make it worthwhile themselves. So if you're going out and you're on food systems and you're saying you're only going to be able to spend, save $2 a month on a bill, that's not really going to be something that a customer is really going to want. So, you know, from state to state it's different, and really from usage, even within the state's different. Is, you know, I think you can take the example of the savings that are going on in PQRIS, but they're going to be completely different when you go down to the border and look at the counties down there, because the temperature differentials are a lot different. So it's hard to say with any certainty that this is going to be the guaranteed sticker price when this gets passed. But, we do know that in the 19 states and the District of Columbia where it's been passed, they've been cost-effective models where low-income subscribers have been able to benefit from these programs, that they've been able to exist. And so, again, without putting a definite price on it, those savings are there and do get produced because it's an economic, competitive model.
Okay, thank you.
Just to, my experience with Picaries too and other homes and savings, it's really hard to capture all of the savings, truly. It depends on utilities, even the size of the home, the amount of energy they use. There's so many factors at stake, dependent on each community, the geography. So, it is kind of a elusive number, but I mean, there are savings there. So just, it's really, truly hard to predict. Also, we have about, just to remind you, we have about 10 minutes left for questions. Also, feel free to ask. We've been deep in the weeds about the legislation, but, if you still don't know what community solar actually is, ask us anything. We want to make strong advocates when you all leave this room, to be able to explain not only, what we're doing here, but also how you can help. So please use your time wisely and however best you can.
Hi, my name is Beverly Eastman. Oh, I know I'm really short. Hi, my name is Beverly Eastman. I'm a technical science writer, and I have a few questions for the panel. But first, I want to thank you very much for coming today and all that you have done to bring New Mexico closer to being net zero in the future. The first question is directed towards Jeff. Do you know the Department of Energy can put out a call for papers to find solutions to the problems of lightning strikes disrupting your solar field?
No, I was not aware of that, but
We can talk later.
yes, definitely.
Okay. And number two, the panel, lost my okay. When do you expect your pueblos, since you are not with the state of New Mexico, to attain net zero? And for the rest of the panel, with this push towards solar communities, when can New Mexico be net zero?
With Picary's Pueblo specifically, we could actually do it by the completion of this second solar array. We currently can have the capacity. With the first one, we have the capacity to fully provide energy for 600 homes. So there's only about 80 homes on the reservation, so technically with the first one, it could be totally self-sufficient. With the second one, we probably could do the whole thing, including all of the administration buildings and all of our economic development that's going on. But we're going to increase it. We don't just want net zero, we want more. So that's how the economic development comes into play. And before, I just really want to say that Picary's is very unique in that because we have such a strong leadership in Governor Quancello and his forethought, it's really his ideas and energy and his forward thinking, but also going back to traditional knowledge of keeping Mother Earth, safe, making sure she still helps us out and provides what we need to sustain our life. And I think it's through his vision and his energy that Picary's has really been able to get to where we're at right now.
What about for the rest of New Mexico? When do you think we'll be at net zero?
I think all of us were having a little sidebar and we were saying 2045, which is the goal. That's what the ETA goal, and as I've mentioned over and over again, we're complementary, and so I would say 2045. Can we start a song, 2045, whatever that is?
So if you look at page 188 of the state's constitution, okay, Article 20, Section 21 says the protection of the state's beautiful, healthful environment is hereby declared to be of fundamental importance to the public's interest. The legislature shall provide for control of pollution and control of depositment of air, water, and other mineral resources of the state, consistent with the use and development of these resources for the maximum benefit of the people. So this is your power right here.
Hi, my name is Damian Lara. I'm ward chair for 16A, just right down here. And thank you all so much for being here and moving forward. Off of that, one of the biggest barriers to this is, and we've heard different people talk about it in different ways, is the financing. Whether you think that's going to be in the socialist market or whether you think it's, local credit unions or out-of-state companies or industries moving in. Part of what we've seen in different models, is particularly the rich credit, is that we want to have this not be an extractive industry like all of the others, where, and I'm not talking about pulling things out of the ground, I'm talking about taking the blood, sweat, and work that is being produced here in New Mexico by our people, and those profits and those rewards being taken out, whether it's Wall Street or out of state. We have the second, if not almost the largest endowment here with all of our investments. Is there anything in the bill that would allow a community of, whether it's the sawmill community or any other group of individual communities, saying, we want to purchase this, we want to be the developer, we want to put solars on our gardens, we want to put rooftop solar on our homes and in our businesses, and be allowed to produce more than our 110% average monthly use, because PNM is saying we're only going to give you credit and you're not allowed to produce excess electricity because then you're going to flood the market and then you'd be considered a utility. What in the bill can we do to allow people to have those access to capital and investment so that they can become developers in their own local community, producing solars, not only for themselves, but to provide that for their neighbors as well?
Thank you for the question, Damian, and that is actually the essence of the bill, because the bill opens it up to local organizations, as I mentioned, nonprofit, for-profit, any organization, community-based, community development, whomever in the community that comes together and wants to put together a development project for community solar facility, it allows for that. In fact, that's what it goes against the traditional model and is introducing a much more non-traditional, inclusive, comprehensive way in which communities, and that's what we're trying to, and that's my philosophy. I've been talking about the philosophy over and over again, and that is that I think we need the day back when neighborhoods own their neighborhoods, and it's a neighborhood by neighborhood, community by community governance back. That's true democracy. So that's the whole point of the bill, and so I appreciate you recognizing that. And in several different spots in the bill, it does name Native American tribes, it names nonprofits, for-profits, it names local organizations, doesn't name them, but that categorizes it.
So I'll add one other thing. You mentioned credit unions. Banks will not do this. Okay, this will not fit their risk assessment models. But I think credit unions would be a very good source for financing community solar projects. So I think your idea that just you mentioned credit unions, I think that's very important. Pursue that, because credit unions could indeed free up the capital to do something like this. The banks will not.
Is this one? Oh, okay. Well, something you might want to look into is community development financial institutions. I know they got some for Native Americans, which is one of, I sit on a board for one, but they have some for non-native type, so that's another area.
And then just to add to the financing aspect of it, if you all can recall, we have a Community Development Reinvestment Act. It's a federal act, and it's in the law that banks must invest in their communities. And I don't mean sending money to a charitable event or whatever in that sense. I mean really invest. So if this is a way to hold the banking institutions accountable to that act, because they've gotten away the last 25 to 30 years with just reporting that their employees go and support various community projects, but we have seen very little to nothing in terms of reinvesting in the community. So this is a perfect way for the banks to partner with credit unions, to partner with local investors, and put the development package together. The financing package should be really minimal part of that development project. Go ahead. Say the name of that act again. Community Development Reinvestment Act, and I believe it was 1986, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's where the community banks come from as well.
But I think that one of the things that you've raised is a very crucial point, and that is the defining difference between community solar and local choice energy. So community solar would allow what we've been talking about this whole time, but not to produce more energy than the subscribers sign up for. The thing that's different with Picaris is producing not only the energy for its pueblo, but is selling the excess energy and making some money. That is the difference between community solar and local choice energy. It's basically saying to PNM, you no longer can be a monopoly. You can still produce energy, and if people want to buy that from you, they could do that. And they would be paid for their poles and wires. There's no question about it. And that is what's happened in 8 states already. Because this is happening, the same exact conundrum has happened, and I just wanted you to know like how successful it's been. In Illinois, there are 100 cities and towns on 100% clean energy as a result of, it's called community choice aggregation or local choice energy. So they said, hey, we don't want to buy your coal plants and we don't want to buy your gas, or et cetera, et cetera. And it's a way to accelerate the transition. So we're not waiting till 2045 to meet the beautiful words, aspirational words in the Constitution. We're actually putting it into place. So this would, if you think community solar is sort of fight with the monopoly utilities, local choice energy is basically forcing them to do what they can't do, which is compete.
Okay, we have time for just 2 more questions, it looks like, so.
I think most of mine have been answered. My name's Athena Christodoulou, and I'm the president of the New Mexico Solar Energy Association, and worked very hard this past session to try to get the community solar bill passed. And I just want to make sure it happens this year. I'm going to be behind there, and I just want to make sure that it happens, and to say that this will indeed kickstart us, because it's not only to convert the electricity to be clean, because then it'll be from renewable sources, but we have to realize that we have to convert all our energy uses to clean energy, either by the sun or by electricity in this case. So that means we are going to need more electricity than we're using right now. Let's keep that in mind and make sure it's all clean and it all happens fast. Thank you. I really don't have a question.
My name is Sandra Wheeler, and I drove down here from Farmington because I am so committed that we have to change for the state. But if I'm going to be a good advocate for this bill in Farmington, I need to be able to understand a little bit more, because the city of Farmington has inserted itself between PNM and the customers, and it has no regulation by anybody else except the city, as far as I can tell. So the bill commits PNM to buying the energy that is produced by however large an array is the community comes up with. The city is not very user-friendly for solar. They do not have net metering, except, unless you were really grandfathered in. So is there anything that I can tell residents up there that they would be able to get in terms of benefit other than your energy is now coming from a clean source rather than a terribly polluting source, a greenhouse gas source.
Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, the city of Farmington, I don't know what to say. It's an uphill battle right now.
Yes,
with them.
and the other factor there is that they're in absolute panic over the closure of the two units of the San Juan generating station. And I thought that the big deal was just the workers. The revenues, the tax revenues are colossal. I was totally, the mayor was totally amazed at how much one source has supplied. Okay, I'll still pitch. It's still good for the state.
It's still good for the state. I mean, one of the things is that we've been telling the city of Farmington for, at least I have for 10 years, real leadership is about solar, not doubling down and creating some ridiculous, preposterous pie in the sky. Usually I'm like big into visions, but why would you ever have clean coal, which I don't believe it exists.
Oh, it doesn't.
And they're spending their money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, the city of Farmington is spending, on a completely ludicrous idea.
Yes.
The key is of the affordability, and it's low cost, the reliability, especially the reliability is a major factor in community and wind solar. We are a perfect state for that reliable energy source, and you're in a very, you're in a very tough spot, I understand, and we will do whatever we can and need to do to help you reinstill that faith back into the community and have them realize that the power is not with San Juan or the city or any of those entities, but the power lies within the community. And if the community wants to stand up, take what is rightfully theirs through their tax base and revenue and whatever, and use that, then the community needs to be organized around that, and that's a great mission.
Well put.
It's time to wind up now, but just one last question that I'm going to pose to you, and hopefully we can have some pretty concise answers, because we're about 5 minutes over now. But if you could just have, a quick call to action. We've really just kind of bombarded our audience with a lot of information, but if you could just provide a quick call to action or recommendations on what they can do to enable community solar legislation in 2020.
The things that I think you should do is sign one of these, take 10 and get people to sign them, and Miles has them at the back of the door, and then just put on a stamp and send it in. I think it's really important that you all pick up the phone and call Senator Worth and Representative Egoff and say, this is a must. We are experiencing a climate crisis that we're in. The Arctic is on fire. The Amazon is on fire. We are experiencing these crazy hot days here. We need to transition as absolutely quickly as possible. 2045 is not soon enough. We need to be like Picaris Pueblo, not, and we need to take it back in our own hands.
I'll just add, it is true, the city of Farmington and the San Juan region will feel the loss of San Juan, but how long can we go on supporting a technology that's polluting our land, our water, our air? That's a really important. It doesn't do much to help the city of Farmington, but they will get some money through the Energy Transition Act to make some transitions to a better future or a different future. What I'm afraid of is they need to be careful in the choices they make, because in their panic, as my fellow citizen put, if they make the wrong choices and they invest in technologies that might not pan out, that's my biggest fear. For example, they're talking about carbon capture. Is that a proven technology? Where is that carbon dioxide going to be sold? How much of it will be produced? How long is this company even has the experience to do this? That's a question I asked PNM when they had their first public meeting. I said, when you talk to this company, when what was the largest plant they have built where carbon dioxide is being captured? And they said, we don't know. So those are the questions that Farmington needs to add. I'll take just 1 minute more to maybe describe how we got here. All this happened because of the Public Utility Holding Act, which was passed many, many years ago, which allowed small electric companies to be aggregated into large electric companies. In fact, in the city of Albuquerque, there used to be a small generating station on 12th Street. It used to be called Prager Station. I know this because I worked at PNM. It was shut down because it was no longer economic. They had bought a couple of boilers from old Navy ships, and the electricity used to be generated locally because the lumber mills were right there. All that changed, and then due to PUCA, this Public Utility Holding Act, utilities started building larger and larger stations to generate electricity. But for you, the important thing to know is that technology has peaked. So there's the argument that you're making a large coal plant because it saves money, because it's more efficient, and it costs less is no longer true. All the coal plants have peaked out. They cannot be made more efficient, and they cannot be built cheaper than what they were built. So really, the age of coal is pretty much coming to an end.
To wrap up, do you have anything to say? I would just say that the most effective change occurs when we organize, when we mobilize, and when we act. And if you want community solar, we organize, mobilize for community solar. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you to our wonderful panel. If we could have one more round of applause for them. And a special thanks to Sarah Mayani. So, yes, we organize. And I know for every one of us that is here, there are at least 10 others that we know personally who we can help mobilize, right? With the information that we have here today, we can go forth and help make that happen in our community. So if you would, please fill out your form here. And let's get it. We're going to have organizations such as Solar Arts Organization going to help us, Adelante Progressive Caucus, to get information and mobilize and organize so we can get together. Manny Crispin is going to be collecting these, so if you would please hand them over to him. And Amanda, would you please come up? We're going to do our drawing right now for the, first for the door prize, must be present to win, so thank you for coming. And Amanda is the second vice chair for our county party. So she's going to draw a name for our solar light. Oh. And this is Lisa Silva. Lisa? Oh, bummer. Lisa. Oh. All right, we have Bev Leisman. Bev. There you go, Bev. She won. It is an inflatable solar light and mobile charger by Lucy. It is really cool, $35 value from REI. And you charge it for, I think, 10 hours, and you get 50 hours of battery life off of that. Yeah, it's really cool. All right, and then our next drawing. So, Manny, did you collect all the forms? Get all your forms there. We have another one of those. Yep. Volunteer. And I'd also like to say, with that, if you would like to be on the planning team that's going to help to mobilize, put that on there too. And we'll get you on the committee that's going to help with that. While he's doing that, let me make a couple of other announcements. I find my paper. Oh, the postcards. So you all have the postcards. If you fill them out, Samuel in the beautiful blue Dems Care shirt will pick those up we will stamp those for you if you like. If you want more of those postcards, there are more available at the back, so you can hand them out to your friends and get those to our governor. Tom Solomon, would you make your way up front here so you can tell us about the solar fiesta? He's talking. Okay, let's get everybody have their volunteer forms? Oh, okay, Tom Solomon. Sir, come up here, please. You're gonna talk to us about the solar fiesta while people are... And also, I wanted to make an announcement about the statewide judicial races. They are being financed by public financing. We have Justice Bacon, Justice Thomas, and Justice Eves? Anyway, there's another one. We have, they need your donations. You can donate up to $100 for statewide races. And also, in October, we're going to be getting $5 for the $5 certificates, and they're going to need 2,500 of those. So go to their websites to help with that, because we love public financing. And along that line, Democracy Dollars is having a meeting at the Olay office on August 27th from 6 to 7:30, so please put that on your calendars. Progressives in the Park is tonight at which park? North Domingo Baca. Okay, Tom's going to tell us about the solar fiesta.
Yes, hi, Tom Solomon here again. I'm actually going to do one thing, and then I'm going to introduce Athena to tell you about the solar fiesta. So on September 20th, there will be a global climate strike. Kids are going to walk out of class and demand urgent action on climate change. They're going to convene at Robinson Park, and one of their 4 key demands is to pass community solar legislation in the 2020 session. So another way you can support this bill is to support the kids striking on September 20th all around the state. And so what you should do, if you can, organize your workplace. We are asking adults to actually take the day off of work, a real work stoppage, strike, withhold your labor on September 20th, and join them at Robinson Park at 1 p.m. Yes, go to climatestrikeabq.com. All of the information is there, climatestrikeabq.com. And with that, I will introduce Athena Christodoulou, President of the New Mexico Solar Energy Association, and she will tell you about the Solar Fiesta.
Thank you. I know you want to leave. October 26th. Mark your calendars for Saturday, October 26th at North Domingo Baca Center from 10 to 3 o'clock. And come on out, and once you've done the climate strike, now you're going to want to mobilize, organize, and act for your own self and what you do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Athena. Manny, can you come up here? Last call for sheets. And then also, if all these websites are too much for you, go to bernalillodems.org. We're also going to have, or we already have, a community solar page. Thank you very much, Carlene, for that. And we're going to have all our resources linked to that page, and it's just a wealth of information there. You can also sign up for our newsletter, bernalillodems.org. So now, Manny, our first vice chair, is going to draw. You want me to mix them up? Random drawing, or... Okay. Okay. We have Troy McGee. Troy, you are now the proud owner of a solar light. And with that, all right, you're welcome. Thank you all for coming today. Go forth and be advocates for community solar.